Hello everyone, I'm Liliana Śmiech, President of Warsaw Institute, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to today's very special event in focus, the 3Cs Initiative Summit in Bucharest 2023. I'm very honored to host today Dr. Mihai Seba, head of unit at the European Institute of Romania and associate editor at the Romanian Journal of European Affairs. Hello, welcome.
Hello, thank you very much for your kind invitation. It's a pleasure being here with you in this summer month to discuss about our common project, the 3Cs Initiative.
Thank you very much. And with us in the studio as well, Katja Elizabeth Herman, research fellow at Warsaw Institute. Thank you, Katja, for joining us today.
Good afternoon. Pleasure to be here.
So, not to waste much time, Mihai, I would like to start with the 3Cs Initiative Summit that is slowly approaching. Do you expect any key decisions there?
Well, we had in Bucharest at the beginning of this year a first official letter on behalf of the Romanian MFA on the priorities that we like to see happening in the Bucharest summit. So, in this official document presented to the Parliament following a parliamentary inquiry on the objectives of the Bucharest summit, the Romanian Minister of Foreign Affairs clearly stated that Romania would focus this autumn on bringing Ukraine, Republic of Moldova, and Georgia closer to the 3Cs initiative. Moreover, we said that we still support the invitation of Germany to join the 3SI if possible, and also we are going to take into consideration the intention of Greece and North Macedonia of becoming members. However, for this summit, we also have in mind that the economy is the name of the game. So basically, the 3SI cooperation is an economic cooperation, and therefore we intend to attract more and more financial institutions that would provide support and resources to the 3SI investment fund, while also exploring the possibility to have a complementary innovation fund attached to it that is based on purpose-driven innovation principle. Additionally, the digital infrastructure and cybersecurity are important priorities on the agenda of the 3SI, and in principle, we hope to reactivate the 3Cs initiative commerce chambers that was created in 2018 Bucharest Summit as a support framework for the 3SI Common Economic Project. And also, we'll try to attract here relevant companies and states that may provide the financial resources to our common project. And for it, we have mentioned distinctly during the official visit of the Romanian president, for instance, the Romanian government, countries such as Japan, United Arab Emirates, and Singapore that we like to have close together at the business summit here in Bucharest, also alongside maybe South Korea. So basically, it's a summit about political maturity of the platform of the 3Cs initiative, because we are no longer in the infancy stages of the platform, but we want to advance more toward its full development, its full political maturity, and also we want to go from general discussion, general aspects to very concrete projects and analysis.
Thank you very
So
much. Yes.
in brief, this is the
Yeah.
main
Yeah.
objective.
No, it seems, I would say, groundbreaking because I think we can see that very often we're just discussing several things, but there are no actions behind those talks. Katja, in your opinion, would this summit be just about Ukraine, or as Mihai mentioned, there will be much more dimensions to the discussion?
I certainly expect to be more about, well, less about Ukraine and more about tangible. It might sound a little bit crude, but the reality is that for the last 2 or 3 summits, we have exploring and talking in general terms and less in concrete terms. I mean, even since the United States tried to fund it or injected money, we haven't have actually seen tangible developments, and it's It's surprisingly and at the same time a little bit disappointing that we continue to have a conversation, we continue to foster this discussion, but still we haven't reached that point that the initiative deserves, right? In this respect, I mean, I certainly expect the summit to be more about strategic partners, including Georgia, including Greece, because Greece has a unique position as well, and its inclusion has been also discussed for a very long time. I mean, in the last three summits, Greece was progressively interested more in the initiative. And well, I mean, we know that the ports are key. Turkey is also in the vicinity, so it is certainly an expectation. I mean, we would really look forward for this upcoming summit to be a little bit more advanced in these topics. In particularly, something, if I may, already discussed beforehand, is the digital or interconnectivity. Now, much discussion on the Three Seas initiative has focused on transport and energy as a natural development amidst the war in Ukraine. But digitalization is one of the key. It's also one pillar of the Three Seas initiative, and we haven't seen a lot about digitalization or even cybersecurity. So it is particularly interesting and particularly necessary to give the attention to the third pillar as well.
Thank you very much, Katya. Yes, so I think we all can agree that this summit will be different than the previous ones. And you also mentioned the US engagement that was supposed to be, let's say, much more vivid than it actually is. So, what do you think, like Mihai? What are the current efforts and future plans to enhance the transatlantic partnership between Three Seas and the US?
Well, one of the main, let's say, principles of the Three Seas Initiative is to foster also transatlantic cooperation, and therefore, after the initial success of last year Riga summit with the US investment in the 3SI fund, we need to go further on that, and for that we need to keep the US interest alive. In fact, it's my personal opinion that the US has shown a grown interest in the initiative, so has the European Union, as the fact they express their intention to support the initiative infrastructure and economic development, it's a good thing. So by doing so, the idea is to make clear for our American partners that if the initiative is strong, if the initiative fulfills its economic objectives, it would help secure and it provides a useful tool, for instance, in strengthening the resilience of the region vis-à-vis Russian Federation, and also it may provide a useful geopolitical tool in the European de-risking strategy towards China. So having the US in the region is key, as all the states in the region, we can agree that, perceive their security to be mostly linked to NATO and to the United States, while for the economy and social aspects, the European Union is key. So I hope that we are going to see this autumn a stronger US presence and a stronger US interest in the initiative, and I'm sure that things are going to evolve to a better perspective. For instance, one thing that is not necessarily fully discussed is the impact and the support of the American companies in the energy sector. And one key initiative in the Three Seas is the modular reactor, nuclear reactors. And Romania is already having an advantage in this section of the nuclear energy, as we are actively supporting the creation of the small modular nuclear reactors in Romania, and we hope to see this technology growing and developing faster in the Three Seas Initiative countries. So nuclear and investment in the US investment in the digital fund may bring us closer. And I believe that our common interest will make the US to realize that if they need to secure this part of the world, the Three Seas Initiative is might be the right tool to do that.
Thank you very much. Yes, I completely agree, especially with the nuclear energy. It's not just Romania, but also Poland. Just last year, the government signed a contract with the Westinghouse company, American company, to build the first big nuclear reactors. But there are also plans to have smaller modular reactors. So we're also looking forward to have them because we don't have yet, but that's the plan. And Katya, so we were discussing U.S. Also, in the U.S., the elections are coming. Do you think that the a potential result may somehow influence the engagement of U.S. in our region?
Right. So, as someone who is definitely working more on the part of transatlantic affairs and the U.S. elections currently, definitely I could see an impact. But let me go just two steps before. Um, from where did the U.S. Initial support, originated, in or what was the initial intention? And this can be explained under two main considerations. The first one was, as Michael said, the risking strategy and de-risking in the sense of minimizing the presence of China in the region, and that has certainly been accomplished. I mean, on the one hand, China hasn't been able to position itself as stronger as it was expected. Why? Because now, not only because of the war as a contributing factor, but also because countries have valued or have acknowledged this necessity to become independent from external actors. Now, by independence from external actors, that has created a sense of cohesiveness in the region, which has, in consequence, brought the Three Seas Initiative partners closer together. And we can see this because now most of the partners agree on the majority of the things that are being discussed, right? Which is something that it's or has been quite unlikely in the last 10 years. For the first time, we're seeing an actual agreement and consensus. Now, how this agreement and consensus will actually materialize, that is yet to be seen. And then the second point, it was under this very broad and very big umbrella NATO context. Now, the pure fact that the north-south corridor was underdeveloped, sorry, made also military mobility challenging. So it was easier to bring troops, and it was easier to transport from west to east, from Spain, from France, from Germany to the eastern part, landing in Poland, and then from Poland distributing. Now, this all feeds within the NATO Article number 3, which precisely talks about resilience and how each country is responsible to enhance its own resilience. Now, U.S. support at this stage, initially with President Trump, was rooted on that narrative that if we support Europe and they do their own work, they can enhance their own resilience. Now, Europe and Central Eastern Europe have proven actually more than capable to accomplish this. Now that we see a greater cohesiveness, now it is yet to question whether the United States will continue with that same rationale, or are they going to find a different rationale to continue supporting in the region. Now, I have to applaud Poland because Poland has taken a leading role and a central role for the last year. Um, Most probably, Poland will also have elections, so most probably that will also continue. But now, on the third spectrum, and answering your question, Liliana, whether the elections will determine further support of the US, yes, of course. I mean, they will. The elections in the United States will completely change the agenda in Europe. Let's remember that the US agenda, foreign policy agenda, has also focused on Taiwan. So whether to invest in infrastructure for semiconductors is could take priority over investing in road and transportation in Central Eastern Europe. Now, this is a question, obviously, that will have to be discussed at a later stage. But my main take on this is that, unfortunately, Three Seas Initiative partnership will take a secondary role, and it won't reach the agenda on the top priorities, unfortunately.
Thank you. So it will not be the priority of the US government, but maybe it should be the priority of Central Eastern European countries. And here's the question to you, Mihai, because Romania is the only country within the Three Seas initiative that is organizing the summit for the second time. So how to change still the reluctance of some countries towards the Three Seas initiative? And I'm talking here, for example, about the Croatia, where there's still like some kind of misunderstanding between the prime minister and also the president. But also, for example, Czech Republic, which found again the willingness to participate in the Three Seas initiative. So on the one hand, we are experiencing the renaissance towards Three Seas initiative, but on the other hand, I think the Three Seas initiative is still not the priority of the Central Eastern European countries.
About the initiative and the fact that Romania hosts for the second time the summit is, first of all, it's a show of proof of our interest in the initiative, as we realize that, and we hope to make other partners understand the fact that the initiative is first and foremost also a geostrategic in its nature. Why that? Because it promises to further integrate and connect this region to Europe's major energy, transportation, and communication networks. And besides the economic aspect, this by itself is a revolutionary and very important objective of connecting our region to the major hub in Western Europe and the world. And also, in the last year, the ongoing war against Ukraine has prioritized the security concerns on the agenda and reshuffle existing priorities. And in this context, the coordination between the European Union and NATO is important, and the cooperation in the region becomes more important than ever. And therefore, the need to strengthen and deepen it has become obvious for all the countries, such as the case of the Czech Republic. And also, the war against Ukraine gave new impetus to non-EU countries to explore possibilities outside the EU partnership, and that is why we have the increased interest in the initiative on behalf of Georgia, Republic of Moldova, and Ukraine. However, the initiative, we need to balance it carefully in order to avoid duplicating the efforts, and we need to use what we already have. And therefore, the summit in Bucharest may also bring more clarity on the role of the initiative inside the EU, on the role of the initiative and its relationship with non-EU countries, and also would bring perhaps new members inside the EU, such as the case of Greece, and therefore strengthen the coherence and the resilience of the region. Therefore, I believe that Bucharest has this unique advantage of having hosted a pre-war summit in 2018 and also a summit during the war against Ukraine. And the elected officials and technical experts now have the ability to see in real time the differences between 2018 and 2023 and to see what has changed from 2018 to present and how they can calibrate the initiative to face these new geopolitical challenges. And that's why I believe that would use this opportunity to clarify more its objective and to reach the maturity necessary of the initiative in order to further flourish. And also, I think that we have also learned an important lesson, the fact that everything is linked in the region and the security is directly influenced by our existing networks of road connectivity, energy, and so on, and the fact that we need money and funds to support the initiative. And that's why bringing resources in the initiative is going to help us all at the end of the day.
Thank you. Yes, I completely agree. The security is the key, I think, a crucial issue, especially nowadays. And Katya, so the 3CC initiative is mainly about energy, transportation, and digitalization, right? The infrastructure. But what about, for example, the defense sector and military issues? And here I'm talking about some kind of coalitions because More and more countries are investing more and more in their defense. This 2% of GDP spending is not right now just the maximum, but I would say it's more of a starting point right now. Do you see any chance for the Three Seas initiative to also be some kind of a hub for coalitions when we talk about investments for defense sector?
Right. So no, it's you're completely right. I mean, the 2% has now become it's called well, it was called in Vilnius a floor rather than a ceiling. So exactly that, as Poland now has done, it has way then exceeded this 2%, right? Um, Unfortunately, I wouldn't say that the Three Seas initiative will become a hub for military cooperation, uh, primarily because it was not envisaged as such. So the Three Seas, I mean, yes, it has developed in a context very different from other initiatives. Yes, it has become a hub for conversation of military cooperation within the wider context, but I think it would be a wrong approach to consider the Three Seas Initiative as a hub for military cooperation. There needs to be a clear um, delineation or clear boundary, because the moment these kind of topics begin to overlap, it can make cooperation also harder, because it will introduce also a different perspective and perception of the ideas and the objectives. So I believe it would be a wrong move, without any objection. I mean, if the leaders and the countries would like to have it as a hub, but in my opinion, it would be a wrong approach to introduce it as such. Now, that does not entirely means that you could have military objectives in the sense, as I mentioned, for instance, within the umbrella of NATO Article number 3. I mean, if the intention is to increase resilience and the consequence of this goal of objective also addresses military concerns, then we formulate the objectives and the narrative a little bit different. If you understand what I mean. A very concrete example to this is PESCO, so military mobility, where by increasing and by enhancing or even by modernizing the transportation routes and the energy sector, we can achieve other um, goals. In that respect, yes. But concretely on military cooperation and military in the military domain, it would have to be very, very specific, and the effect should be incidental. If I'm being clear enough. With that being said, I mean, the very straight answer is first, no, I don't think that it will move to a military cooperation further in the very direct sense. And two, I wouldn't recommend it. I mean, from what I've seen and for the amount of consensus that leaders and media and also civil society has demonstrated, embracing this initiative under a military scope would be a wrong turn. If I may just comment on something that Michael said about investment and also retaking my point about the role of the United States, I think a very, very important, well, a very marked opportunity would be to engage further the American chambers, so the AmChams. They have been quite active in big countries or in big capitals, such as in Warsaw, in Prague, less so in Budapest, but still there are these hubs that can naturally be used, and it is up to the governments to engage them further. Now, some of the AmChams have been contributing, but some others across the region have not. So I think that is one of the points that needs to be addressed during this summit as well.
Thank you very much. And Mihai, what do you think? I'm just thinking out loud. So maybe not just, I mean, maybe not the military sector, defense sector, but I believe it would be much easier for countries to achieve this kind of levels. Like, for example, Poland right now with the almost 4% of GDP on defense spending. If we would be spending money altogether or different kind of military equipment.
Well, coming back to the military side, I must say that from the beginning, the Three Seas Initiative was never intended to have a military purpose. It's based about economy, about cooperation, and not military focus. And for that, we have the complementary organization of Bucharest 9 that brings together the countries in Central and Eastern Europe NATO membership. Yet, what may be of interest is the fact that if we develop the infrastructure in the region, we may have a positive side effect on issues such as military mobility, the famous military Schengen that we spoke about. Yet, it is important to, and I agree with my colleague, not to mix the security aspects, the military security, with the initiative of the objective. And why cybersecurity is important is not necessarily the same such as military cooperation. So developing this is important and keeping them separate because the Three Seas initiative it's an economic project meant to bring prosperity to the region and also to help reduce the gap that exists in development due to our communist past when the infrastructures were mostly oriented east-west and not north-south. And this in our initiative help us bring together the north of Europe and the south of Europe from that point of view.
Thank you, Mihai. So I think it would be last question from me. Then we will go to the questions from the audience. So, what are the prospects do you think for bringing Greece to Three Seas Initiative? Not just changing the name to for CIS initiative, but like what do you think? Like, what are the plans and what can be also the advantages and disadvantages of this kind of situation, Katya?
Well, to begin with, yes, we would have to change the name, I guess, from Three Seas to Fourth Seas. I mean, having already four, four connected seas. My apologies. Um, I think, as I mentioned during my opening statement, I think Greece is a very important or should become a very important partner, not only because it has the resources, and when I say resources, I mean the important ports and the entry ports. It is also a gateway of connection to important partners or regional partners like Israel and Lebanon, which in terms of energy have proven to be incredibly valuable. So when we let's when we approach the Three Seas initiative, we also need to think about it from the inside, which is the 12 countries, and how we want to achieve further this resilience, how we want to modernize these countries, and how we want to create interconnectivity. But we also have to look to the outside. What is it, the impact of the Three Seas initiative to the outside? And in that respect, Greece has a gateway to Israel, to Lebanon, to Turkey as well, and it can become a substantial partner in this regard. Now, I do not expect, with regards to your question, I do not expect Greece to become an immediate partner in this summit. Unfortunately, I think that the conversation is now gaining important momentum, and we could expect the conversation to continue, but at least we would have to wait 2 or 3 more summits until this can actually become a reality. Um, I believe I do not speak for the Greek government, neither for the Greek people, but I could expect that they will wait until Via Carpathia, for instance, is finished or at least substantially developed, so that they can actually be confident about the project in material terms. I think in terms of ideology and in terms of aspiration, they are very confident in terms of cohesiveness and importance in the region. But in if you want investment, then there has to be something tangible that unfortunately it has not been yet the case. Now, it is also difficult times. I mean, there are conversations about also regarding an expected recession. There's something also important to take into consideration. Now, one of the key points that needs to be also addressed is the Chinese presence in the region. China injected a lot of investment in the region and also a lot of concessions and promises that now China needs to back down from, because they are also having economic struggles. So when you see the interplay of multiple factors, you can see that, well, this is also to explain the reality of why I wouldn't expect Greece to become a member in the next 2 or 3 summits, right? Notwithstanding, that does not undermine its substantial value.
Well, actually, Greece was supposed to join just in the beginning, because it's not like this that they didn't receive the invitation, because the invitation was on the table. However, Greece was struggling, with the mentioned also economic crisis. So, yes, I'm not also expecting the decision to be done very soon. However, I think the door is open all the time for Greece, but also for other countries. Mihai, what is your input in this? Like, what do you think?
Well, unlike the year when the initiative started, this year and the last year have shown a very different geopolitical setting in the region. And Greece is step by step being more interested in taking part of the initiative. For instance, in 2021, the Greek president took part in the Sofia summit as a guest, and it shows the fact that the Three Seas initiative needs Greece due to its geographical location that makes it a gateway to the Mediterranean, and also due to the increased investment of energy in of Greek authority and so on. For instance, as and I agree with the idea that Via Carpathia may it is very logical to have its extension up to the Greek city of Thessaloniki, for instance, as this motor project, as it will help the territorial cohesion of the region. Also, the fact that Greece is being included in the TAP project and its LNG facilities would strengthen the north-south energy axis, energy corridor, and the energy resilience of the southeastern and central and eastern European countries. So, and also, it is easier to integrate Greece in the initiative as it is already an EU member state. So, even if the summit may not bring Greece as a member, it will, however, strengthen the dialogue that already exists between Greek authorities and the other countries in the initiative, and would further pave the way for a future admission of Greece that would be relatively quickly due to our administrative similarities and the fact that we are all EU member states. And bringing this fourth seat to the initiative would only help close the gap that exists between North and South and the access to the Mediterranean. And from all the countries interested in the initiative, let's say I'm the most optimistic as regards Greece because it's in a way is the easiest country to be included in the initiative with the less administrative cost and burden. So if there is to be one easy candidate, then this will be Greece.
Yeah. Thank you, Mihai. And we have one question from the audience regarding Ukraine, because Ukraine became the participating partner of the Free Seas Initiative. And the question is, will Ukraine deepen cooperation in the region? I guess, will the Ukraine cooperation between the countries of Central Eastern Europe and Ukraine will deepen the cooperation within Free Seas Initiative, Katya?
Well, very relevant and timely question. Thank you for that question. I believe Ukraine has always been interested as well. If I am correct, Ukraine also began with having interest with the initiative even before the war, knowing that it was important to connect that part of the so further east to the west and also to the north. When it comes to concrete cooperation, I think transport is definitely one of the key points when which Ukraine would definitely benefit. Not only because it is the most necessary at the moment, but also when the war is over, because it will be over, transportation will be needed for the reconstruction of Ukraine. I mean, energy is also a substantial, but in comparison with other countries that invest or have invested more on energy, I believe, and the analysis shows that Ukraine will focus or will strengthen the digital pillar. And I believed this would be the case because Ukraine has a substantial know-how on the digital aspects. So I think the most important and the strongest point of cooperation for Ukraine is together with transportation, because transportation is needed, will be the digital pillar. So yes, I would expect, but at least not until the war is over could we see that on the digitalization part. As for the transportation, it is a partner, yes, but unfortunately, it all comes down to investment and to the money and the capital required to move forward with these projects.
Hmm. And Mihai, what is your opinion? Will the cooperation with Ukraine strengthen the Three Seas initiative or weaken it?
While Romania has always expressed its interest in identifying the best ways on how Ukraine can cooperate with the Three Seas Initiative, while also we have emphasized the need for the Republic of Moldova to receive the same status like Ukraine inside the initiative. We believe that Ukraine is a key element in developing the Three Seas Initiative, and one important role can be played by the trilateral cooperation format that already exists. We already have this Poland, Ukraine, Romania trilateral cooperation format, and also a trilateral between Romania, Republic of Moldova, and Ukraine. So the use of these already existing diplomatic tools may help find the best way on how to integrate Ukraine and Republic of Moldova. And also, we need to have in mind that the cooperation inside the Three Seas initiative can be also very good exercise in the longer and more time-consuming process of EU accession of these two countries of the EU negotiation. And the Three Seas initiative may provide a very useful laboratory on putting into practice cooperation in the region between EU countries, EU candidate countries, and in areas, very critical areas such as connectivity and energy. One important aspect that I see important is the energy aspect, because we have done a lot of efforts in the last winter to secure Republic of Moldova energy security, and we need to prepare for the upcoming winter because we are not far away from the winter, and we risk to see a repeat of the same problem that we have faced in the previous winter with energy shortages, gas, and so on. So basically, identifying the best ways to work together is crucial, and we need to put this in very concrete and pragmatic terms. We need, I believe, on a personal note, you need to have also an adequate mapping of the projects in the region in order to avoid overlapping and in order to identify the best financing sources and also to avoid the duplication of some regional or local initiatives. So anything should be put in, say, in the master scheme of the Three Seas Initiative and the EU projects in order to see what are the ongoing projects, what can be financed, what can be done more in order to improve the project in the region, and also how can we connect the disparate national or bilateral project into one single framework in order to have them better prepared. For instance, the question of rail to sea, and maybe one topic of interest would be the development of a railway between Romania and Chisinau, Republic of Moldova, that has the European gauge and not the Soviet-style one. So all these small elements can be added into the Three Seas bigger picture of interconnectivity. And this can be
Mhm.
done in Bucharest and also with further dialogue along the way.
Thank you very much. That is very, very well said. Thank you, Mihai. Thank you, Katia, for joining us today, and many thanks to our Romanian partner. The event will be available on our Facebook, YouTube channel, and of course at 3seaspartnership.com. So to be sure to have it there for those who were not able to join us today. Thank you very much once again for joining us today. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Have a
Have a
nice
good day. Thank you.
day.